Unit
7.
Word stress shift. Conflict or conflict. That is the question. While some words in English might be spelled exactly the same, once you shift the stress in the word from one syllable to another, you could be changing the meaning of the word or even the function as well. We're going to take a look at 29 of the most important stress shift words. Let's begin. To start off, we have the word address. We all know it as the location of someone's home or business. For example, share your address on WhatsApp. However, if you shift the stress to the second syllable of the word, making it address, you will be saying the verb, which means to speak or to deal with someone or something. For example, the president will address the nation this evening. Moving on, we have the word addict. Now, as a noun, an addict actually means a person. It's a person who is addicted to a particular substance or activity. Some rich people become drug addicts. If you shift that stress to the mid-syllable of the word, making it addicted, then you have the adjective of the verb, which describes someone who is unable to stop doing something because they are so strongly attracted to it. For example, she is addicted to social media and spends hours scrolling through her phone. Up next, we have the word attribute. Attribute as a noun means a quality or characteristic that someone or something has. Let's take an example. One of Oprah's best attributes is her ability to communicate effectively. Just like in the last example, if you put the stress on the mid-syllable, making it attribute, you would be saying the verb, which means to credit or assign a particular quality or characteristic to someone or something. To put it into an example, we can attribute her success to her hard work and determination. Coming up, we have conduct, or at least the noun version of the word, which means a person's behavior or manner of acting. Put in an example, we could say, the teacher was impressed with the student's conduct during the field trip. If you shift that stress to the second syllable of the word, duct, making it conduct, then you would have the verb, which carries the meaning to perform or carry out a particular action or task. In an example, we could say, the scientist will conduct an experiment to test the new drug. Up next, we have conflict. Again, this is the noun version, which means a disagreement, argument, or struggle between two or more parties. For example, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine has lasted for many years. Conflict would be the verb, which means to be incompatible or clash with something else. For example, his schedule will conflict with mine, so we'll need to find a different time to meet. Up next, we have console, or rather the noun version of the word console, which means an electronic device used for playing video games, such as PlayStation or Xbox. For example, game consoles are a popular gift during the holiday season. Console, on the other hand, is the verb version of the word, which means to comfort or alleviate someone's sadness or grief, make them feel a bit better. For example, she tried to console her friend after the loss of her pet. Stay with me, folks, you're doing very well. Up next, we have contest. In the noun form, contest, with that exact stress, means a competition or game where people participate to determine a winner. For example, the spelling contest was held in the school auditorium. Contest, just like many other words, you see that the shift is on the second syllable to make the verb, means to challenge or dispute something. For example, she plans to contest the election results. Alright then, let's take a look at content. In the noun form, content, which is a word we might have heard of from social media, means the information or material that is contained within something. For example, the content of the course is very informative and well written, or at least we hope so. Content, on the other hand, would give us the adjective which means a state of being satisfied or happy with something. If we put it in an example, she was content with her job and didn't feel the need to look for another one. Coming up, we have contrast. Contrast, just like many other words before, is the noun form. As you can see, the stress is on the first syllable, contrast. Here we mean the noticeable difference or distinction between two or more things, especially used in lighting and photography. For example, the contrast between the two photographs was striking. Contrast, on the other hand, making the stress on the second syllable, would give us the verb which means to show the differences between two or more things again, just the action rather than the noun. In an example, we could say, the artist chose to contrast the warm colors with the cool ones. Alright, up next we have convert and convert. By now, you understand that the function will usually be first syllable, noun, second syllable, verb. So, convert is the noun. It's a person who has changed their religion, beliefs, or opinions. For example, Pope Clement was a convert from paganism. Convert, where the stress is on the second syllable, is a verb which means to change something from one form or function to another. For example, we need to convert our dollars to euros before we go to the airport. Next, we have converse and converse. Converse is the noun, which means the exact opposite. However, the converse of this theory may also be true. As an example, and for converse, the verb, we mean to engage in conversation or discussion with someone. For example, I enjoy conversing with people from different cultures. Up next we have the words decrease and increase. We bundled them together because there is so much similarity between these two words. Notice how, if the shift is on the first syllable of these words, decrease and increase, we have a noun, which means the act of increasing or decreasing. For example, the increase or decrease in sales was very significant. On the other hand, if we shift the stress to the second syllable of the words, decrease and increase, we would have the verbs of these words, meaning to make something smaller or bigger. For example, she decided to decrease or increase her spending. Alright, up next we have the word desert and dessert. Now, pay attention, this is not the yummy dessert that we eat after dinner. We're going to come to that later on. Desert, as you all know, is a noun for the geographic region characterized by dry and sandy and hot conditions. For example, the desert is a harsh and unforgiving environment. Now, dessert, on the other hand, which may very easily sound like yummy dessert, is a verb which means the act of abandoning or leaving something behind, such as a job or a responsibility. For example, soldiers might desert their post. He decided to desert his post and leave the army without permission. Our next word is a very familiar one. However, you might be surprised by the verb form of the same word. On the left side, we will have the noun. Entrance. We all know it. It is a physical point of entry, such as a doorway or a gate. For example, the entrance to the museum was decorated with colorful banners and flowers. Entrance, if we shift the stress to the mid-syllable, would be a verb, which means the act of captivating someone. Captivating as in drawing in their attention. For example, the magician was so mesmerizing that he was able to entrance the entire audience. Next in line are extract, the noun, or extract, the verb. In the noun form, where the stress is on the first syllable, we have an extract from a film. For example, we watched an extract from a historical film. Extract with the stress on the second syllable would give us the verb, a verb which means to remove or take out, especially by effort or force. For example, wisdom teeth extraction can be one of the most painful procedures. The next words we look at are import and import. Import is the noun, which means a product brought from abroad. For example, the import of goods from other countries is essential for many businesses. As I'm sure we understand by now, shifting the stress to the second syllable will give us the verb form, to import, the action of bringing in goods from another country. Let's think of an example. The company plans to import new goods from overseas. Next we have object and object. Object, we might be very familiar with this word, meaning a material thing that can be seen and touched. He was dragging a large object. Object, on the other hand, would give us a verb which means to disagree with something or someone. Let's take an example. I don't think anyone will object to leaving early. Coming next are the duo perfect and perfect. Perfect, the adjective, carries the meaning of having all the required or desirable elements, qualities, or characteristics. For example, the cake turned out perfect. Now, perfect, on the other hand, is actually a verb which means to make something completely free from faults or defects, meaning make it as good as possible. Let's consider an example. I need to perfect my presentation before I deliver it. Stay with me, folks. Only a few left to go. Permit and permit. Permit, the noun version, is actually an official document giving authorization to do something. You need a fishing permit if you want to fish in California. Permit makes the verb, which means to allow something. The prison authorities permit visits only once a month. Pervert and pervert. Pervert is a person whose sexual behavior is considered abnormal. For example, the woman called the police and they arrested the pervert. Pervert, as a verb with the stress on the second syllable, gives us the meaning to change something so that it is not what it was or should be. Let's take an example. The officers were charged with perverting the course of justice by fabricating evidence. Present and present. Now, present actually has so many meanings. Of them are existing in a group or in a place, a gift, or now. Let's take 3 different examples for all 3 meanings. All students are present. He gave me a nice present. And live in the present. Present is the verb form, which means to formally introduce someone or something, from which we have the word presentation. I will present my research findings at the conference. Now, this one usually is a shocker. produce, and produce. Produce is actually a noun. Yes, you heard that right. Which actually means food. Well, types of fresh foods like dairy, vegetables, fruits, etc. For example, I bought some fresh produce at the farmer's market. Produce is a verb that we are all very familiar with, which means to make something or bring something into existence, to make it available. As an example, Syria produces high-quality pistachios, which are a major export for the country. Suspect and suspect. By now, you have probably noticed the safe generalization that if we are stressing the first syllable, then we have a noun form. And if we're stressing the second syllable, we usually have a verb. Suspect, the noun form, means a person thought to be guilty. For example, the police have a suspect in custody for the robbery. Suspect is the stage that the police do before they arrest the suspect. So it's a verb, which means to doubt the genuineness or truth of something. Let's take an example. I suspect that he is lying about his alibi. Up next we have subject and subject. Subject, the noun, means the thing that is being discussed. For example, our subject for discussion is pronunciation. Subject, shifting the stress to the second syllable, gives us the verb carrying the meaning to cause someone to experience or undergo something. For example, the animals were subjected to a series of tests. Just 5 more to go, folks. Make sure you're pausing and repeating after me. Reject and reject. Reject is a noun of something that has been rejected, basically, because it is flawed. Let's take an example. The product was a reject because it didn't meet the quality standards. Reject in the verb form, meaning to refuse to accept, use, or believe something or someone. For example, the appeal was rejected by the court. Alright then, almost there. Record or record. A record is actually an official document. For example, all medical records are kept confidential. Record is actually to set down in writing or some other permanent form for later reference. It could be in audio or video. To think of an example, we could say, "Can you record the meeting for me?" By now, you probably know the drill. Protest and protest. Protest gives us the noun, meaning when people come together and they express their opposition to something. For example, the protest lasted for several hours. Protest is the verb, meaning, again, to show that you disagree with something. If we take an example, we could say that the citizens decided to protest the new law. Up next, project and project. Project, in the meaning that we all know, is a business idea or a plan. For example, the theater restoration project will take 6 months. In the verb form, project means to plan, estimate, or forecast something. For example, she's projecting that it will take her about 2 hours to finish her homework. Last but not least, insult and insult. Insult, in its noun form, means a remark or action that is intended to offend or disrespect someone. For example, his comment about her appearance was an unnecessary insult that made her feel embarrassed. Insult, in the verb form, means to offend, humiliate, or disrespect someone. For example, I hope you didn't mean to insult her when you criticized her work in front of everyone. And that's a wrap, folks. Well done. Keep practicing and keep your eyes on the prize until you reach your goals. Make sure to send us your pronunciation of the comparison between the verb and the noun forms on our Telegram channel. Leo and I will send you feedback on how to improve or congratulate you on your great job. On to the next one.